All the best, everyone.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Kalila Baldwin, and on behalf of the entire DigiConnect team, it's a pleasure to host you all today and to welcome you all to the CFO Office for Transformation in the Digital Age, Banking and Financial Services Boardroom, presented by Constellation Consulting Group. We are honored to have so many thought leaders in attendance today, and we encourage everyone to actively participate, as this will be an interactive discussion. Some housekeeping before we begin. We have placed everyone on mute in order to limit background noise. We'll be taking questions and comments after each section, which is when you may ask a question using the raise your hand feature found by clicking on the participants tab at the bottom of your screen. You will then be unmuted to ask your question. Alternatively, please use the chat box to interact with our event attendees and our wonderful speakers. We will now officially begin with our opening keynote by Mr. Murat Sivelek. He is the Senior Director for Constellation Consulting Group. Murat leads the financial sector in enterprise performance management practice. Murat has 20 years of consulting and enterprise performance management and spent most of his consulting career with banks and other financial sector clients. Murat designed and led numerous analytics and enterprise performance management projects for large enterprises across many industries. So Murat, without further ado, I will officially hand over to you so that we can begin.
Khalil, I believe he just lost his connection. He's just logging in back in. Just give us a minute.
Okay. So at this time, I would actually like to welcome to the stage our panelists. Maybe you can give a brief introduction to yourself while we wait for Murat to sort out his technical issues. So Mr. Ram, I will start with you.
Sure, I can go if that's fine.
Yes.
Khalil, is that fine? Can I go?
Yes, please, please.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Ramkumar Balasubramanian, Head of Finance, Middle East at Barclays. I have over 20 years of work experience working with global banks like Citi and Barclays. I've done different things over this time, working in finance, operations, front office, sales, everything. And across different divisions, corporate banking, investment banking, corporate IB, and private banking. Today, as CFO here in the Middle East, I have a seat at what I call the decision-making table and the ability to chart what we do in the region. I'm really excited about my role and look forward to contributing to my role here and to the finance function in general overall. What I thought was take a moment, and I think the people that we have here are finance and technology folks. Something of interest would be that I'm both an engineer and a chartered CPA. So you rarely find this mix. That means that I also embrace technology wholeheartedly, while also running finance as a very tight ship. I really look forward to today's discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ram. Mr. Ruslan, we would love to hear from you.
Thank you. Yeah, sure. Good morning, everyone. Short introduction from my end. Ruslan Abil. I'm a group CFO for DenizBank Group, which is a part of Emirates NBD, with almost 25 years experience. I also have a diverse background, starting actually as many finance guys, as a chartered accountant at Big Four, and then doing some consulting work, and then moving to industry, banking industry, working both in Turkey and United States. I'm also a chartered CPA. Actually, Ram, it's interesting to see a chartered CPA and engineer background jointly together. That's quite encouraging, actually. We'll discuss during the call, and that is actually what we're trying to see our new generation try to kind of have a hybrid model, engineers and technology guys, and then embracing the traditional finance function. So DenizBank as a group operates in Turkey, and also we have operations in Europe, Russia, Bahrain, and as I mentioned, we're part of Emirates NBD. I'm glad to be here today, so we'll deep dive into most pertinent issues related to finance function, digital transformation, especially in COVID, hopefully soon in post-COVID era. So thank you.
Thank you and welcome, Mr. Ruslan. Honored to have you here, as well as Mr. Ram. Gary, we would love to hear from you, please.
Good morning, everybody. Ramadan Kareem. So my name is Gary Brocklehurst. I'm based in Dubai. I work for Oracle. I have worked for Oracle actually since 1988. For more than 25 years. I took a little break, but came back. So it's interesting actually. So I'm product strategy leader for the Gulfs region for both EPM and ERP. And it's actually very interesting, the two comments that we just made about, this concept of hybrid finance professionals and maybe, rotating finance through the business. We see that really as the future. So, we need to bear that in mind. We can't now build finance systems for finance professionals. We have to build finance systems that everybody can use. So that particular trend is driving the user experience of our applications going forward. There's a different type of people that are going to be using finance systems in the future. Thank you very much.
Gary, thank you and welcome. We look forward to hearing more from you later. I believe, Mr. Marat, are we back?
Yes, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Wonderful. Yes, we can.
Sorry for that. Because at the very wrong time, I had started having some internet connection issues. Actually, I was planning to introduce our guests after 5 minutes, but you have already started when I was away. I think it will be better for me to start sharing my screen and talk about myself and about the event. It's okay, right, Alina?
Of course.
Okay, let me share my screen. Trying to do that. Yes, can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hello, everyone again. Welcome to our session. I'm very excited to having you all here today. We will be talking about a very popular topic, a bank CFO office in the digital age. With our special guests, they have already introduced themselves. We will discuss the CFO office transformation during the digital age in the banking sector. It's obvious that CFO office is one of the departments in a bank where the days are really hectic. Finance professionals always work in tight deadlines. There are strict compliance and regulations arose as new challenges. There are ongoing projects have to be delivered on time, and the finance teams have to support the organizations' short and long-term strategies by providing budgets, forecasts, and other financial figures. We all know that transferring and sharing the information have to happen too fast these days. There is a demand on the information, and this demand is increasing day by day. In many banks, periods, close cycles happen during the first few days in that period. This also brings the change to be faster. Without technology and human intelligence, this cannot happen. Even during COVID times, we have also observed that we still must pick up the speed. The CFO office didn't stop during these days. They have to run as fast as before, at minimum. The banking industry has been ongoing a rapid change for the last few years. So the change is there, for years back. But when we look back to the last few years, the change is more faster than the previous periods. Today, we will listen from our guests how different financial organizations adopt technology and how they change, or they have been changing way of doing business to keep aligned with the ongoing change. We will try to find answer on this question how are financial professionals adapting to the new and existing challenges in digital age. We have an agenda for today, as you can see in the screen. After this welcome speech, it will be followed by an introduction, and then we will continue the panel discussion. I think we can skip the introduction part. I will just introduce myself and my company very briefly, because you could get a chance to listen from our special guests. They have already introduced themselves. After the panel discussion, we will have question and answers for around 10 minutes. So we will try to make it on time. Let me talk about myself and my company, Constellation Consulting Group. My name is Murat Sivelek, working as a senior director in Constellation Consulting Group since 2013, and I'm looking after sector of financial services. I have been participating enterprise performance management and analytics projects, as taking different roles like subject matter of expert, advisor, coordinator, project manager. I'm also an Oracle EPM Hyper and S-Space certified consultant. I just want to talk about my company, Constellation Consulting Group. Constellation has more than 20 years of global delivery experience, and has been operating in Middle East and Turkey since 2013. We have other offices in UAE, India, Egypt, Turkey, and UK. UK recently founded and will be announced soon. Constellation Consulting Group has been recognized as a trusted partner of Oracle for so long. Currently, Constellation has EPM cloud service and cell expertise partnership level, which is the highest level at the moment. You can see our certifications in the bottom right corner of this slide. You can also see some customer logos at the right upside. Considering the size of the project, financial sector and public sectors clients come at the top of the list. Because the project sizes are more compared to other sectors on these areas. In most of our projects, we provide advisory, health check, process optimization, implementation, support maintenance services, and on finance, performance management, transformation processes. We have delivered region's largest EPM projects in the last 5 years. We have more than 100 EPM focused consultants, and minimum 75% of them already having Oracle EPM certifications. We are confident to say that Constellation is the largest consulting firm when with the EPM focus by revenue and number of customers and the consultants. Okay. I think we will skip the introductory part of our guests, but I want to start the panel discussion. And I just want to start with Ruslan Abil, but before that, I just want you to see a few of responses of CFOs in a CFO survey. I will link my questions to what I will show you in the screen as a subsequent slide. This survey is conducted by Deloitte Q1 of 2021. One point which is out of this survey is that 80% of CFOs are more optimistic about the financial prospects of their business than 3 months ago. I think this is really optimistic for me as well, because we know that CFOs are the people who knows the performance and financial status of the organization, who knows this part most. And if 80% of CFOs are saying that we are going better compared to 3 months back, then that should be a positive trend. 41% of the CFOs expect demand for their business products and services to return to a pre-pandemic level after 2022 or later. I think this is not something good to hear because most of the CFOs, maybe approximately near to 50%, expect demand for their business product services. They will pick up after 2022 or later. And other 50% are, some of them are pessimistic and some of them are optimistic. Another point, the pandemic impacted, when the pandemic impacted us, most of us started working from home. 70% of CFOs expect the bulk of their firm's workforce to return.
Hi, Murat, if you can unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry. I don't know how it has happened. Sorry about it. Can you hear me now? Is it okay?
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear
we
you.
can.
Okay, great. 70% of CFOs think that after 2020 or later, most of the staff will be back in the office. And 5% of the CFOs expect the bulk of their firm's workforce will never return working in the office. So we will discuss these points, and I just want to ask Mr. Ruslan if he agrees, the CFOs who are participating in the survey, what have you observed so far as a major change in the work environment during COVID-19? What are the expected changes in the future on working style? Yes, Mr. Ruslan, over to you.
Sure, Murat Bey, thank you, and welcome to you as well. So we just did a short introductions ourselves, so I'll dive immediately into your question. Actually, you're absolutely right. I mean, what we experienced with COVID-19 is completely unprecedented experience for the whole humanity. I think that's that no scenario could have predicted, actually, maybe except Bill Gates, who was telling about that for a long time now. But with that is actually interesting because it's happening at the same time with fourth industrial revolution. I mean, a lot of changes happening. I mean, we've talked about digitalization and a lot of changes actually before pre-COVID, and that was one of the topics and the trends that was discussed. But with COVID happening, it's actually expedited tremendously the whole process of changes. And that's obviously, I'll talk about the finance function specifically, but when you look at the businesses, it's transforming whole of the businesses. I mean, we're talking now through Zoom, and all the means that we were doing, it's completely transformed. And I guess the key question would be, are we going to go back to where we were before actually COVID, or do we expect it to be different? My personal opinion, that's going to be different, and not just because of what happened with COVID, but it's because of what's happening with technology, with all the transformations happening around the businesses. And again, with the fourth industrial revolution, the transformation will happen there. And the COVID has just expedited it. Am I optimistic about the financial prospects? I would say yes, because, and the reason for that is again, the simple evolutionary trait of humankind. I mean, we survive because we are not the strongest or we are the most intelligent on this planet. As Charles Darwin said, we survive because we are able to adapt. And we've seen that many times. The businesses that are able to adapt, those are that survive, and the ones that do not adapt, they don't survive. And I believe our organization is actually quite agile and able to adapt, and that's why I'm optimistic. 3 months, I'll argue about that, but again, I'm more optimistic on what's going to happen. The business demands, they will be different. That's for sure. And we're talking about banking industry. We see completely different perception now. We were discussing about the digitalization in banking space for many years. We're talking about fintechs coming and eating our breakfast, lunch, and dinner, whatever, for many years. But with COVID now, everything expedited so fastly. I mean, our regulator is adapting a lot of regulation around digital onboarding. Consumers, even the ones that were not eager to adopt new technologies, mobile banking and digital onboarding, etc., they are doing that now because of what happened. And it's like, if you're there, you will never go back because you are used to the easiness of the use of it. So I think the businesses will be different. And then the third part is relating to workforce. What's going to happen with people working? Are they coming back? And we're discussing that a lot, because what happened last year in March, in 1 or 2 weeks, we had to move all our staff to homes, and it was an effort. It was not that easy. No, our stress testing was ready to see that for our organization, 6,000, 7,000 people will go to home and start working, connecting to the network and do all the work as if everything was running from the head office. But now it's kind of new normal. We work like that. And we'll talk about the finance faction. I mean, we do a fast close, and then really a fast close. We're reporting consolidation on day one. We have a quite challenging shareholder. From that standpoint, it's a big challenge. And doing that, working from home, that was another challenge. So to answer the question, do I expect to return back? I think there will be different models. But in the long run, I think what we'll be seeing is that the organization that will be able to deliver the model where you can work from anywhere, that's kind of where we will head to. And it doesn't mean that you will have to work from home all the time, but the ability of organization to allow to work from anywhere, anytime, I think that's what we'll see in the future.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Ruslan. And you think that, the 5% of the CFOs think that the workforce will never return to office. So do you agree on this approach, or what do you think exactly? Working from home will be a part of the business life, right, going forward?
Yeah, I'm not that sure for that, because there is also, I think we need to understand. With the whole concept of work from home, also the psychological and social aspect of it, because I'm hearing a lot from my directors as well, and we're talking to also the millennials or new generation, how they're perceiving. Especially the people who just joined the organization. They never, first years, second years, they've never been to the organization. Yeah. They don't know people and etc. So I think there is also a psychological and social aspect to that. So I would be doubtful that never return is going to happen for some time. But we'll see the pockets of the workforce that will definitely be working from home for sure. We see a lot of that happening in IT space because for IT specialists, especially considering how scarce are those resources. We talk about all digitalization, about technology. Those guys are going to be borderless. They can live in Bodrum and work in UK, and that's going to be a big challenge for different countries, especially for the emerging economies, where you had the advantage of the cost advantage. You didn't need to compete with UK or a German market, where the salaries are significantly higher, because there was a natural border, physical border with immigration, legislation and etc. But now with the work from home, when the borders are virtually removed, you don't need to move some IT guy physically to UK or Germany. You can hire someone in India, in Turkey, and be competitive on the pricing, and that's going to be a challenge for organizations in emerging economies. Again, to kind of close on your question, not all, but I'm going to see some of the segments of the workforce that's going to be permanently working from home, I think.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ruslan.
Sure.
And yes, Mr. Ram, as being a leader in a global bank which has operations in Middle East, what would you like to add to Mr. Ruslan? In banking sector, remote working was not a common user style. What do you think about that, and how do you link this to utilizing technology or leveraging the technology in the processes?
Yeah, I think in the Middle East, yes, you're right. Working from home was not a regular sort of feature. But if you look back to centers of scale in Barclays, centers like London, New York, and India, given the kind of commute time being spent, working from home was sort of very accepted, in the sense that people did 2 or 3 days a week working from home. And it's more in certain functions. So in fact, the offices themselves were not scaled for a full capacity. So if you had 100 people, you would have only 70, 75 seats, even previously. Not today, but even previously. And dynamic working in Barclays was already in place. In fact, in this region, while it's not very common, I was a dynamic working champion. I used to work from home once a week. So it really worked. But yes, if you say, were we prepared for this kind of a setup? Even an organization which ran dynamic working with 2-3 days a week for certain people could not have been prepared for this kind of a setup where 80,000 employees overnight start working from home. But what I'm really happy to say is technologies really saved the day. They've stepped up and made a huge, huge difference, and we cut over seamlessly to the extent now that this now has repercussions in other spaces. So if people find working from home very comfortable, and as to how it impacts organizations, I see real estate space not being so important. We ourselves have taken certain decisions where we are providing the best possible kit to people to work from home. We have IP phones, so I have a landman home. I have WebEx, I have Zoom, I have Teams meeting, I have pretty much everything. I have 3 screens sat in front of me right now, and I have my office chair at home. So that's literally the situation here, right? So it feels no different from being at my desk. And when I do go back to office, unlike previously, I won't have a room. I'll have to find myself a hot desk. So it's pretty much become an open plan office. So what could be the way of the future? Obviously, there'll be a mix and match. There'll be some people working from home, some people working from office, and some people permanently working from home. And when I say permanently working from home, not taking our example, but there's a big local bank in the UAE which has implemented this already, right? So 40% of the workforce have been told that they don't need to work from the Dubai office. They can go back to their home country and operate from there in certain centers, or even permanently work from home. So banks are already moving fast in this space, and there's realizations, there's gains to be had in terms of cost, at least. But definitely, if you've seen that over 1 year, you've been able to deliver everything end to end for a global bank. And so it's very possible. Working from home and achieving it is possible, but a big good match of people coming in and floating out is what will work in the future, is what I believe. If you ask how COVID impacted us, yes, like Ruslan said, I entirely concur. There are lots of demands from the regulators for different kinds of reporting. We had to do all sorts of scenario analysis to come up with various comparatives very quickly. All sorts of modeling activities, right? So finance was under stress to not only just do more with the resources that you had, but to do much better than you were doing before. So the stress levels on finance were significant. And what I saw on the front office side was that the technology cycles crashed. So if it meant onboarding a customer through a digital platform would take maybe 1 year to get approved and rolled out, those things just crashed. They just happened overnight. So it does mean that when things need to happen and it's sort of imminent, people are able to step up and break the ceiling. So technology cycles are going to be very short. Future working will be a mix of all sort of possibilities. And the banks are taking actions in this space. So I clearly see real estate savings coming through for many people. If you ask only about the finance function, this is where I'm very interested, is that finance cannot anymore be a dodo. And I use the dodo as an example. A dodo bird was in Mauritius, right? It was all over the island of Mauritius, ubiquitous, right? And when the Dutch sailors came, the dodo had not seen any animal or any man before, let's say in the 17th, 18th century, right? And when they came, in about 100 years, the whole dodo population was extinct because they hunted it down. It never knew what it meant to be hunted down. I think finance now has to be aware. Technology is changing. What got finance here is not what is going to get finance there. And that's where the hybrid question of techno finance people working and stuff like that. The business models are changing. There's digitalization, there are algorithms, machine learning, all those buzzwords that we hear. So finance really needs to adapt and step its game, or it could get really left behind. Finance can just become sort of a small center of excellence and somebody else running the show. So if finance wants to lead, finance should take this as an opportunity now and really lead the organization in the digital journey. And it's sort of become imminent, and it's good that technology has triggered this change.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ram. So just I will link this question, your words to another question, and I want to ask to Mr. Ruslan, how are finance professionals adapting to the new and existing challenges in digital age? We got lots of talks about digital transformation these days, but we want to hear from you, who is in the center of the transformation. Can you elaborate more on where your organization is on the digital journey? Just a very quick note I would like to add. We have been working with DenizBank also more about a year, and we have also delivered a successful project, and we have a roadmap here. And we have also been working more than 4 years with Emirates MBD and delivered, many performance management platforms there as a part of this digital transformation. Maybe you may want to talk about all of these combined and share your ideas with us.
Sure, Murat Bey. I'll actually echo some of the ideas that Ram just shared, and again, I'll start with the finance function and its evolution, to say how we should be seeing. I mean, we as ingrained in us. I mean, we love, as a finance guys, we love Excel, right? Microsoft did a great tool, probably except Gary, who probably doesn't like Excel, but we all love Excel, and this is how we kind of learn to survive in finance space. But that's already the past, right? Because what we're seeing now is completely different challenge what's happening, because the past was for us as a function kind of diagnostic and descriptive. We were telling business and CEOs, and this is what happened, and this is why it happened, right? Because this was a basic function of finances. I mean, except the closing accounts and being an accountant, just to give the business the insight of what happened and why happened, and just providing that information. Now with the technology coming in space and the business itself changing and the world changing, now if you want to survive and not to have a finance function which becomes a redundant, but like a service function, or completely get redundant, you need to step up, and you have to be predictive and prescriptive. And it's not about just what happened, but it's what's going to happen and how in different multiple scenarios that can happen. So you should be able to deliver to the business different options of what might happen. And then only in that sense, not being a diagnostic and descriptive, but being more of a strategic partner, not just co-partner of the business, but being of a more strategic partner and giving a strategic view. That's, I think, it's a go for the future for the finance function. And again, Murat Bey, coming to our journey as DenizBank, this is essentially the view that we take as a finance function, because we view that it's an evolution of the organization, and in it the finance function of that, and that's why we are working on enablers. And we don't view only a technology of enabler; it's also HR function. I mean, a people mindset, the culture, the processes. I mean, we talk a lot, and I specifically made a reference to Excel, is because this is a mentality of your workforce, right? Because they used to work with it. We live in the comfort zone of controlling the Excel spreadsheet because we work on them. We do that. But at the same time, we talk about the machine learning, we talk about RPAs, the full digitalization, automation of the processes. And that means that we will need to let go of that controls. And that's what we started the journey with Constellation, and actually working on a number of projects where we need to address the fact that we need to be fast, we need to be able to deliver it automatically, we need to simplify our closing process. And we are a complex organization. We operate across different jurisdictions. We have a sizable bank in Austria. We have operations in Russia. So all of them have their own differences, and so we have to ensure that. So for us, it's a journey to what I mentioned, and it's a transformation that we'd like to do to cope up with the transformation that the business is doing. And again, what is important is, again, the function of also finance teams. I mean, we are used to have this teardrop model where we have top heads and then coming down to the bottom of the organizational structure of finance, very wide accountants, analysts, and etc. But now we should be going into more like a different scenario where the bottom is more narrow and up is more kind of wide, and where we have a different functions when we have different functionalities. I mean, I have now a transformation architect in my team. We're talking about design thinking, and it's not only the run teams, but we also talking about the change teams. And in that respect, obviously, the project that we're running with Constellation is the first phase for us, because when I talked about the prescriptive and predictive, it's not only about the first phase where we're doing consolidation and ensuring that we do straight line process of closing the accounts, but the going forward, we're going to work on the MI and planning and the things that we would like to kind of be partnered with the business and be more prescriptive and predictive in that sense. And for that, this is an important journey for us.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Ruslan, thank you very much. Another question to Mr. Ram at the moment. More specifically, what do you think about the technologies that FP&A teams in the banks are using? We know that this is one of the specialization of you. Please let us know about benefit and changes. How would you define the maturity level of a CFO office in a bank on availing the technology? So if you want, I can jump to the slide that you would like to talk about.
You can bring up the slide, but to start off, I would
This
say,
one,
see,
okay?
FP&A does a lot of analysis and is sort of the conscience keeper, apart from being the financial control team, which does the hardcore accounting. FP&A is the business partner to the business, and FP&A does budgeting, reporting, forecasting, but does use the other systems as well, right? It uses SAP, General Ledger, it uses SQL databases, be it ClickView for visual dashboards, and Alteryx for querying, analysis, and stuff like that. So FP&A uses various tools, but today, to support the CFO on this journey that you, thanks for putting up the graph, has actually probably moved between 3 and 4, wherein, to Ruslan's point, I completely agree. The traditional role, so to say, so let's say preserving the assets, reporting correctly, or balancing costs and managing service levels are absolutely on point. It's running very well. But when you come to strategic direction, are these tools enabling the strategic direction support? Are you able to lead the business in the right direction? Are you able to catalyze behaviors and actually execute something? Are you able to lead the organization forward? You are sometimes still bogged down in the data set, right? So somewhere the journey has moved between 3 and 4. On the maturity model, there's still a big jump to take to go to 5. And that jump is where I spoke previously of, it's become imminent. It's not a question of, will you take the jump? If you don't take the jump, somebody else will take the jump and you will become a small subset operation, right? So I see the jump happening for everybody, will play out very soon. And this is happening also because of another thing. And here, if I sort of take this thing to quote Deming, he said, God, we trust, and everybody else brings data, right? So today we have data, we have structured data, we have unstructured data, we have to make sense of everything. Structured data is something that we understand as finance professionals. We don't understand unstructured data. But finance has to take the leap of faith and try and jump into this. And to jump into this is where you need different skill sets. You will need first a culture where the organization in itself embraces data-based decision making. It's not only doing something for the sake of doing. So if it comes from the music comes from the top, decisions are going to be based on data. The culture is right. Then it's for finance to just, what do I say? Carpe diem, seize the day. Finance jumps into it and seizes the day and can move to a 5 in the journey. But it is really incumbent upon the finance professionals to now take the leap of faith and do it. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Ram. It's again a very common that every financial institution should have platforms for information delivery and performance management. For measuring the performance, there should be targets to be set, which should be aligned with the granularity that the bank systems can provide. The actual data is needed for different reasons. One is it is needed to be the base for the targets, because based on the trends on the actuals, by using different models, forecasting and predictions, budgeting can be done. And also actuals needed for comparison, target versus actual reporting is mandatory for performance management. Without digital platforms, it's really difficult to reach there. For enterprise performance management, we always take some steps for our customers when we implement a system or work on a process optimization for their digital transformation. We always advise on what can be done for transformation as a quick win. After that, that should be the roadmap. Strategies, initiatives, objectives based on the bank's vision all need to be added to a monitorable system. Strategic planning is the next step, long-term and medium-term planning at high level, budgeting for few years, minimum one, end-year forecast, rolling forecast, simulations, execution of the budget is another point. So when after this system is in place, statutory, legal and management reporting, reporting automation, financial close processes, Constellation, account reconciliation, on-demand, self-service reporting and monitoring. So these are all we are covering in projects, mostly in the banks. And I want to continue with Gary, and I want to discuss with him the Oracle's vision here. Where does Oracle stand, and what is Oracle's vision about this subject? And also, Mr. Ruslan said that Gary doesn't like Excel. Do you really don't like Excel?
You know, like everybody else, I have to use Excel. You know, I have to be able to knock up a quick Excel. But there's one thing for sure, I would hate to run a business on Excel. The number of times, you know, that I've got a formula wrong, that's had a huge impact downstream. Number of times it's crashed at the wrong point. So yes, I have to use Excel like everybody else, but would I want to run a business on it? No way. No way.
Okay.
Okay. So in terms of our vision, then, so you know we're no different than a bank, I guess, in as much as we have to put the customer at the heart of everything that we do. So in terms of our vision and strategy, you know, that's where we sit. And when I say the customer, we also mean the profession. So we do a lot of work with, you know, finance profession organizations like AICPA and CIMA, as well as other organizations. And actually 70% of our new features that go into our applications come from our customers. So, you know, we have to listen to what our customers and listen to what the profession is talking about. So I refer to, if you just concentrate on the top half of this slide. So, you know, if we look at the work that we've been doing with AICPA and CIMA over the last, you know, few years, we've done a lot of research and surveys. You know, we started to see, you know, a new operating model emerge from you know from the traditional finance function, and you know they coined the term Agile Finance, you know the need for finance to be agile. And what does that actually mean? Okay. Well, it means having, you know, focus on the customer. It means being able to influence the business in their goal to put the customer at the center of the organization. You know, particularly in banking, where you've got the pressures of technology innovation, you know, regulatory compliance, competitive challenge, new business models. There's never been more pressure on finance than there has ever been. So the traditional way of working is not going to work. So, you know, it's about moving from a data collector to an information provider to a strategic partner, which is exactly what Ruslan was saying. And there's two things that are barriers for that at the moment. And one is the amount of manual activity that finance has to do just to be able to kind of, you know, get the basic information. So, you know, manual transactions, running reports, internal controls, a lot of that still remains a manual process. So being able to, you know, automate all of that manual effort that then frees people up to be able to focus on these strategic initiatives, but also then recognizing that when you free people up, they need different skills to be able to focus on this vision of the future. So, you know, retraining people in analytical skills, in business consultation skills, and what we alluded to right at the beginning, rotating people through the organization so that people from the shop floor, if you like, get to come into finance to bring that perspective. So this is what we termed kind of agile finance, and it was pretty obvious at digital finance, because it's only technology that can underpin this new model that can actually deliver these kind of three pillars of the agile or digital finance model. And so that's what drives, our vision, our strategy. And if you look at our EPM solution, you can see that reflected in how we've designed and built it. So it is a unique EPM platform. It's an integrated, complete suite of financial close, consolidation, planning, profitability, cost management, because we believe all of those things need to belong together. And so FP&A and accounting need to be working on the same system, and rather than kind of separate systems for each kind of function. But if we're going to create an integrated solution, then each one of those capabilities around consolidation close needs to be the best in class, and that's exactly kind of what we've done. So if you look at any one of the components of our EPM suite, it's a leader in its own right compared with all the competition, all the niche competition. So it's complete, it's connected. We're driving automation using AI and machine learning. So we talk about the AI enabled close process that we're working towards, where we're going to really need to kind of redesign our 8-step close process into just a 3-step automated process that we're just managing exceptions, because we need to get down to the point where we can take the pulse of the organization at any time we want. It can't take 4, 5, 6 days to be able to get a position of what the company is doing. We need that immediately, and we need to be able to get the information into the FP&A department immediately, not after a period of time, so then they can start to do their work, and then finally the business gets a view of what's going on. So in the intelligence side of these things, then we're again using machine learning, we're using AI to really compress the analysis part of the exercise. So having the system look for correlations across different lines of business in terms of root cause analysis or variance. Let the system do that for you. Look to do predictions. Let's do a rough cut prediction of what the forecast might look like, and then get the business to kind of put the narrative around that. So these are the things that we're kind of working on. And if you look at the pace of innovation that the working in the cloud has allowed us to do, we can deliver new functionality to the customer every month. Since our cloud EPM was launched in 2014, which was our cloud version of the Hyperion product, we've added another 4,000 unique features to the platform. Every month there is new functionality that our customers can take immediate benefit for. They don't have to wait to the next upgrade. It's available for them straight away. And in fact, 2,000 new features in the last 2 years, and 70% of those have come from our customers telling us, posting ideas of how they think that we can improve the process. So I think hopefully that answers the question.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much. So we have only 10 minutes left. So I want to ask one last question to Mr. Ruslan, and I will try to take some time for the questions and answers. Mr. Ruslan, please talk about your roadmap on this transformation. And you have started a journey with Oracle, and as being Constellation Consulting Group, we are a part of it. We know you have initiatives also for the long run. We also know that the new station did not reduce the CFO office workload. On contrary, it required more efforts at the tight deadlines were the same, more strict compliance and regulations. There are many projects. So can you please let all of us know about your deliverables so far and your next steps? Maybe I can present the slide of the project we just finished.
Yeah, that would be very helpful. Actually,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you. Actually, yes, a little bit more specific on what happened with us, and I'll be happy to talk through the journey that we're gonna get through. We already kind of were in the process of redesigning the whole finance suite from the perspective of requirements from the regulator, because we've seen that during the COVID. I mean, the traditional T+1, T+2 reporting is completely gone. That's yesterday, not even the yesterday. What we've seen, especially during the COVID period, same day on T0, 6 p.m. regulators want data, and they want a very massive data with cleanup data. They want to see then some information, and those are the specific requirements. Cryptocurrency is important. They would like to see what happened to that, what the payments happened. So the whole idea of actually being in the past, that's not something is already as an option. So we were realizing that we'll need to transform. Then obviously we had the new shareholder integration with ENBD, who already kind of very aggressive on their own journey, and they're doing their own transformation. And Murat Bey, you mentioned about a lot of project that you're running with them. So we were kind of aligning with the group at the same time and seeing what we can do. And the first big project that we did actually and jointly with you was on a financial close and consolidation project. And for us, it's not a days now anymore. We talk about hours and sometimes minutes. So by the first day of the end of month, I'm already talking to my subsidiaries that by noon I should be done. And that means it's not like you can do it manually. You need to have a straight through process for everything from closing the accounts, the manual entries. It's eliminated as much as possible. And so we realized that we're still in the woods. I mean, we are not out of it yet, but we have the roadmap, so we know what we would like to do. And we talked a lot about the data, and this is essential. So we do a massive data transformation project at the bank now. We're transforming the new roles. We have a chief data and analytics officer. So we are building around what's needed for the organization from coming to the data. And Gary mentioned about the predictive ability of machines actually doing that. So for a machine to be able to do that, you need to have data. And what was always the truth now is more of through single source of truth. That's most important. And with the first phase with Constellation, we actually were able to complete the whole alignment of the reporting process from the consolidation purposes. Yes, for subsidiaries, we still need to do some work, but the idea at the bank level is that all straight through process flows to HFM, the Oracle, and we do no manual touch almost, hopefully, and then it flows into the into the group level. And this is a phase one. And in phase two, what we're talking about is also touch the automation on the disclosure notes, which we still do manually. So we need to ensure that all the data available, that also goes through the system. Then complete the budgeting, FP&A part that we'll need to do on the budgeting side. And then the final part is what we were talking about, the analytics, they use the big data that actually we're building, because if you don't the governance around the data, if you don't have the right architecture, if you don't maintain that to cope up with the requirements of a new world, I mean, with regulators looking that, you will not be able to survive with a traditional way of doing that. And that's why we heard, as part of our journey, we're doing a lot of transformation on the mindset, having the right people on the team who are able to take that and actually be part of that transformation. And that's in the nutshell what we're doing, Murat Bey, unless you have some more questions.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Rıldan, because we can see the challenges when we check the figures that is in the slide. You can see that over 200 reports are being delivered to the RSA, Emirates MBD, BRF. These are really, a big scope, a wide scope. and we can see that how your professionals, how your team is busy. And with the help of this technology, with the Oracle platform, completing a project like this and going forward with additional steps, I think you will get the most benefits from all of these technologies. Thank you very much for participating, answering these questions for the panel. But if we have time, we can get some questions from the audience.
So,
So is there any questions? Yes.
Yes, and we have about 5 minutes. Thank you to all our wonderful panelists. We do have some questions that have come in. So let's just kick that off. If I need to move my planning and budgeting process away from Excel spreadsheets, what are some of the critical steps I need to consider? Mr. Ruslan, maybe we can get your thoughts on that first.
Sure. We talked about the data, right? I think the biggest challenge that we are facing, and again, I'll talk from the personal experience, I think that it's the integrity of the data, because the tools now that are available, I mean, we talked about Oracle platforms, ERP platforms, a lot of things happening with BI tools now, with Oracle's itself BI tool, then Power BI, clicks and etc. All those require structured data. And by structured data, of course, I talked, big data, which in a sense, not structured, but I mean, even in unstructured data, you need to have some governance, right? Because when people talk about the big data, it shouldn't be garbage in per se. It should still have some rules in data happening. So I think for moving out for FP&A from Excel, I think you need to ensure that you have your right governance around the data. So you have your single source of truth, especially in a bank where you're running the finance functions, risk functions, businesses. When everyone talks different numbers, when everyone has their own number, that's really difficult to get on the one platform. So the one data, single source of the truth, ensure that you have those in place, the governance around it, and then you decide on which platform you take it. There are great tools, and we talked about the Oracle, but those will be as good as you have your kind of infrastructure ready for those tools. And unless you fix that, it will always be garbage in, garbage out, right? So I think the prerequisite for that is that you ensure that you have right data, right governance around that. You have right people dealing with that. A lot of thoughts around chief data officer being in the hat of CFO, or at least as a co-partner. That's essential. And then of course it's much easier because I see the again reference to Oracle. It's quite advanced tools, and they've been building that and enhancing it with a lot of feedbacks coming from the customers. Gary mentioned a big number. I mean, a lot of features that are happening because of the your customers actually requesting those, and that means that the tools now are developing on the requirements and needs of the businesses. But in a nutshell, you will need to do your homework. You will need to do your prerequisite, and on top of that, I think you will be successful to do the transition from Excel to the integrated tool.
Thank you, and Ahmed, I hope that response provided some insights. I'll move on to the next question. It's how easy is it to have an end-to-end integrated financial performance management system? He would like to avoid manual intervention as much as possible. I don't know who wants to take that. Murat.
So yes, of course, I can take that. So it's a journey. As we listened from the experts today, and we see that without manual intervention, providing a system, building a system end to end, which is a digital system, covers all the requirements of finance office. So it's a process, it's a culture, needs to be brought from brought newly to the organization. And we talk about the Excel. So the Excel is a platform, a tool that we cannot avoid, so we cannot escape from it. So we have to combine all our manual activities and the system activities together for doing it fully automated. Because we have to use the interface of Excel, which we are familiar with, but we cannot compromise on the agility, governance, and we have to cover all of the reports and everything that you can see in the screen. So, for example, when we say that over 200 reports needs to be delivered during the reporting period, it means that yes, it is doable with Excel, but it's not a centralized environment. And if somebody do anything on the reports and share it so other people are not aware of it, the collaboration should be also a part of it. So that's why this culture needs to be implemented in the organization. When it is there with a good roadmap, the organization can start the journey, and by knowing that where the organization is lacking, looking and putting a plan for some midterm or sometimes long term, that can be achievable for every bank, for every organization, I can say. Maybe from Oracle's point of view, Gary, you may want to add something on this topic. What do you think about a fully integrated organization?
Well, you know, the underlying technology is there to be able to do it, but you know, you can't just move a manual process and automate it. It's about rethinking. I think we've already talked about, you know, the culture of having an automated and shared system. You know, it gives you the opportunity to put in place a new operating model, and thinking through what that operating model would look like for your organization is, as you know, as much of the effort that's required than it is about implementing software. But the software is there to enable that model, but you know, it requires, like, you know, some skill changes in the organization, some cultural changes. Again, there's no point just moving spreadsheets to a system if, you know, your culture is one of, you know, only, you know, a handful of people have access to the data. It's putting it on a centralized system is about opening all of that information to the rest of the organization. So that requires a big cultural change. It's always, you know, process, people, and technology in that order. Probably people, process, and technology in that order. But the technology is there to enable these new operating models.
Okay.
So we have time.
You.
Sorry.
I think we don't have much time.
No, we don't.
Maybe one, but you know, we have already consumed our 1 hour. So there are many questions. I know that because in my list also, I have many things that I really would like to discuss with the panelists. But I think it is the end of this panel. Maybe we can have another session and discuss more in detail in the future.
Yes.
Definitely. I think it's a topic that's you know, that's well worth discussing. And I think, just from a closing remark from myself, you know, there was a lot of uncertainty surrounding this pandemic, but there's one thing that became very certain very quickly, and that was the importance of having a digital backbone to support finance and operations. I think that became clear very, very quickly. So I think that's one thing that most people have taken away from this last 12 months.
So for all the questions that we were not able to get to, we will be taking them offline, correct, Murat?
Yes,
so you'll be able to get in touch. Yeah.
So we have the list of all questions, and we will be taking offline, and we will definitely reply.
Wonderful. Okay, so with that, I would like to thank everybody for participating. A big thank you to our wonderful panelists for sharing their insight today. We will also be sharing some of the content covered today, so you can be on the lookout for that, all of our wonderful attendees. And so thank you very much. Murat, thank you so much for leading our panel as well.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, everyone.
For the
Thank you. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.